Hello, everyone. Now, as you know, Michael Jordan fans are the worst sports fans of all time. And one of the many reasons why is because these people like to go by all-star selections when they rank players. So here's how this goes. When they rank players, they start to go over the resumes. And when they go over the resumes, they list how many all-star selections a player has. Now, I'm going to show you why this is ridiculous. Here are the reasons why, in no particular order. First, they are disrespecting all of the other NBA people. Next, they are dismissing all of the other NBA people. Next, when they claim to respect the game and then they disrespect the game, they are contradicting themselves. Next, when they claim to love the game and then they dismiss the game, they are contradicting themselves. Next, Michael Jordan fans have a history of always trying to find a way to make Michael Jordan the #1 NBA player of all time. So that right there shows you that they're not reliable. Next, understand why Michael Jordan fans are saying this. It's because they're just trying to find a way to make Michael Jordan the #1 NBA player of all time. So that right there shows you that they're not reliable. Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the players that Michael Jordan played with don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the players that Michael Jordan played against don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the owners, general managers, coaches, and other NBA people that Michael Jordan played for don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of NBA Hall of Famers, lots of NBA legends, lots of NBA scouts, and lots of NBA experts don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that Michael Jordan doesn't agree with them? Next, since lots of these people don't agree with them, why do Michael Jordan fans sometimes reference one or more of these people for one or more topics? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that usually the only people who think this are Michael Jordan fans? Next, if this was the other way around and they were an NBA Hall of Famer or some other NBA person and they found out that there was a younger NBA fan who wasn't there when they played, who doesn't have that much tape of them, who isn't an expert on the past NBA and so on, and they found out that this younger NBA fan said this thing, they wouldn't agree with that fan. Next, if some non-Michael Jordan fan said this thing and it went against Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan fans wouldn't agree with that non-Michael Jordan fan. Next, Michael Jordan fans have a contradiction. They always ask people who disagree with them if they were there when Michael Jordan played, if they went to his games, if they saw his games live on TV, and so on. And yet, they don't ask themselves these same type of questions when it comes to lots of other NBA Hall of Famers. If they did, they would know that it would go against them, and they wouldn't come to this kind of conclusion. Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other NBA players? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other players who played other sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other people and some other things when it comes to other things outside of sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to who they rank as the #2 NBA player of all time and the #3 NBA player of all time and the #4 NBA player of all time and so on? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to who they rank as the #1 player and the #2 player and the #3 player and so on when it comes to other sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to the #1 person or the #1 thing or the #2 person or the #2 thing or the #3 person or the #3 thing and so on when it comes to other things outside of sports? Next, Michael Jordan fans are putting other NBA players in a lose-lose situation. If they have an all-star selection, they'll dismiss it. If they don't have an all-star selection, they'll hold it against them. Next, a player can dominate this game, be above average, be average, or anything else, whether he has one or more all-star selections or not. Next, I want you to think about something logical. Is it logical to use all-star selections to rank players? Next, use some common sense. You know it is possible that a player can be the best player and not make the all-star team. Next. Or a player can be the best scorer and not make the all-star team. Next.
Or a player can lead the league in a good category and not make the All-Star team.
Next.
And there are more examples, but you get the point. So why would they use All-Star selections to rank players?
Next.
Use some more common sense. You know it is possible that a player may not be that good of a player and he can make the All-Star team.
Next.
Or a player might not be that good of a scorer and he can make the All-Star team.
Next.
Or a player might not lead the league in any category and he can make the All-Star team.
Next.
And there are more examples, but you get the point. So why would they use All-Star selections to rank players? Next, Michael Jordan fans always act like winning is the most important thing and everything else doesn't matter as much. Okay, so then why are they going by All-Star selections? Next, some people who vote for an All-Star are not reliable. Next, some people who vote for an All-Star might vote for someone for the wrong reason or reasons. Next, some people who vote for an All-Star might not vote for someone for the wrong reason or reasons. Next, some people who vote for an All-Star may not have a criteria. Next, some people who vote for an All-Star may not be consistent with their criteria. Next, when it comes to all the people who vote, they don't all agree with each other. Next, when it comes to all the people who vote, not everyone agrees with them. Next, there is no such thing as voting the right way because there is no right way. So you can't use All-Star selections to rank players since there is no right way. Next, some people who vote for All-Stars are fans. Not all fans are reliable, especially Michael Jordan fans. Next, some people who vote for All-Stars are kids. Not all kids are reliable, especially kids who are Michael Jordan fans. Next, lots of people who vote go by whatever they like. So that shows you that the All-Star selections is not reliable. Next, the way they have voted for All-Stars has not been the same for every player in the history of the NBA, so you can't use All-Star selections to rank players. Next, there have been lots of people who have disputed a player who has been voted for the All-Star game. Next, there have been lots of people who have disputed a player who did not get voted to make the All-Star game. Next, there have been lots of people who should have made the All-Star team, but they did not. Next, there have been lots of people who should not have made the All-Star team, and they did.
Next.
Lots of times when people vote for an All-Star, one of the things they go by is who they know.
Next.
Sometimes the All-Star voting is partly based on popularity. Next, if they are going to go by All-Star selections to rank players, then why stop there? They should go more into detail. They should figure out who got more votes from people who work in the NBA. They should figure out of all the people who work in the NBA who voted, who got the most votes from people who work in the NBA that are considered more of an expert. They should figure out who got the most votes, whether the votes come from people who work in the NBA or who do not work in the NBA. They should figure out of all the people who voted, who do not work in the NBA, who got the most votes from people who are considered more of an expert. They should figure out how many times a player was a starter or a bench player. They should figure out which players played more minutes. They should figure out which players did better in the All-Star game. They should figure out how many times a player won the MVP award in the All-Star game. They should go by how many times the player's team won. They should do all these type of things where it can apply for the All-Star weekend. But Michael Jordan fans don't do these things. They just go by All-Star selections, so they're not even consistent with what they go by.
Next.
And by the way, even if a Michael Jordan fan was so dumb and they actually went by any of these things, that would just make things way more complicated. I mean, it is already hard to rank players. It makes it harder if you go by All-Star selections. And it makes it harder if you go by all these things.
Next.
And by the way, that part about going by how many times the player's team won, you would think that they would go by that since these people always claim that winning is the most important thing in the NBA and nothing else matters in the NBA as much as winning. Next, if a person plays less years, he might have less All-Star selections. Then what? Next, if a person plays more years, he might have more All-Star selections. Then what? Next, what if a player could make the All-Star game but chooses not to go to the All-Star game? Then what? Next, what is a player supposed to do if he doesn't get voted for the All-Star game? Next, even if you found a legit way to know who should be an All-Star, there is no way to use the All-Star selections as a way to rank players. Next, even if you found a way to use the All-Star selections to rank players, there is no way to use the All-Star selections with other things to rank players. Next, even if a Michael Jordan fan really thinks that All-Star selections is a legit thing to use to rank players, you know that they have not gone to every player that has ever been an All-Star and figured out where to rank them. Next, there is no fact to prove who should be an all-star. Next, there is no fact to prove who should not be an all-star. Next, there is no fact to prove how to use all-star selections as a way to rank players. Next, there is no fact to prove how to use all-star selections to go with other things on a resume to rank players. Hey, please subscribe, and if you disagree with me on something, you can go on my program and show me your facts on whatever you disagree on. If you want to go on, let's set it up. Send me an email. The email is right there in the description section. Thank you.